all my years since qualifying as a counsellor, the one area that I've worked with perhaps the most with all of my clients has been around anxiety. Anxiety comes up in different forms, it has different impacts on us, but in this video I want to break down exactly how anxiety can impact us, what forms it takes, and more importantly, what you can do to help manage your own anxiety once and for all. I'm Desh, I'm a qualified counsellor, and it is my mission to help you in your own journey towards enhancing your self-awareness. And in this video, I want to focus on anxiety. Now, I'm going to provide like an oversimplification of what anxiety is based on my own experience. So that anxiety impacts us usually in one of three ways. We end up with negative thoughts. That makes us feel quite negative emotionally. And then we end up making decisions from that emotional space that may lead to negative consequences in the longer term. So we may do things that help us feel calmer in the moment, but they don't address that anxiety that's looming there in the background. So what I want to do is talk about an example of how this might play out in real time, and also let you know about techniques and knowledge that you need to be aware of that's going to help you to manage your own anxiety. Let's say your friend is going through a difficult time and you've agreed to meet with them. But the problem is you have another appointment, a more urgent medical appointment, that now clashes with the time that you were going to meet your friend. It means that now you have to cancel with your friend and reschedule for another time. But you're feeling really anxious about this because they're going through a difficult time. You want to be there for them to support them, and you're worried about what they might think of you. You're worried that they may see you as not being supportive or no longer being a good friend. And you're worried about this. So this anxiety is starting to loom. You're having thoughts and worries about the future. What am I going to say? How should I say it? How is the friend going to take the information? What if they start arguing with me? What if they don't want anything to do with me? What if? So all of these thoughts start happening. And these thoughts are causing these very uncomfortable negative emotions within you. You start potentially feeling quite afraid of what might happen. You start feeling bad about yourself that you're letting that friend down. And so the anxiety you can see is having this knock-on effect with your thoughts and your feelings. And maybe you then decide, actually, I can't do this anymore. You call your doctor's office and say, I can't make that appointment. Can you do it another time? Even if it's quite an important appointment. The feelings that you're experiencing around letting this friend down have dominated your decision making. So even though now you feel a bit calmer, like, okay, now I'm a good friend again. I've pushed back my doctor's appointment. I can go to see my friend. I won't let them down. It may have potentially negative consequences for you in the longer term because you've pushed back an even more important appointment purely because you were feeling anxiety around meeting your friend. Now that is an example taken from real work for my clients in the past. So that shows you just how much of an impact our thinking and our feelings have on the way that we act and the decisions that we make. If we look at it from a step back, from an outsider point of view, logically, it kind of doesn't make any sense. Why would you push back an urgent medical appointment, which surely should be the top priority, over just being there for your friend? However, it shows you that anxiety within us doesn't in itself have any logic. We are at the mercy often of the impact that the anxiety has on us. So this is an example of how anxiety can impact us. And when we start having thoughts that are bred from that space of anxiety, that cause us to feel quite bad about ourselves and quite low, those thoughts and feelings contribute to us feeling even more anxious. We very quickly get in a loop, and rumination is a symptom of anxiety where we start to obsessively think and have repetitive thoughts and negative thoughts that fuel the anxiety even more. So this is why people who are depressed, one of the most common symptoms is rumination. They start thinking over again and over again on things that have happened in the past or things that might happen in the future. Essentially things that they are no longer in control of. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to understand the impact that anxiety has for you. And in order to do this, you need to develop self-awareness. Now, why is self-awareness important? The reason it's important is because from my experience as a counsellor, I see the impact that anxiety has, as I've just described, on your thoughts, on your feelings, and on the decisions you take. But even more crucial is how anxiety causes us to be confused. It removes any clarity we have over what's happening in our lives. It clouds our vision. We can no longer think clearly because our thinking has been polluted by these negative thoughts and experiences that we're having. So any decisions that we're making from that headspace are clearly not going to be the decisions that are best for us. We can only make decisions that are best for us if we're thinking clearly, because when we think clearly with clarity, we are going to make decisions that are optimal. And in order to think clearly and with clarity, we need self-awareness. Self-awareness is the antidote to anxiety. In fact, it's the antidote to any negative experience, which is where you take the state you're in, which is the anxious state, which is maybe how you're probably feeling every day, right? This anxious low state that's impacting your decisions, is impacting your work, your relationships, the overall quality of your life. That's the anxious you. Let's call that the anxious you. But now we have to foster and cultivate a you that's conscious, that's self-aware. This requires knowledge and understanding. So I would like to invite you now to join me on this journey of self-awareness and discovery. I want you to be the anxiety manager of your own life. Now, in order to manage your anxiety, there's several things you need to consider. Managing your anxiety doesn't come down to just one thing, all right? It is a journey and it is a process. Now, you may be at different parts of that journey. Maybe you're already quite self-aware, you're aware around how the anxiety impacts you, so you can fast track a little bit because you know what your triggers are, you know how things are impacting you. You just need to know the strategies to overcome it. Maybe you're not aware at all that you're even anxious in the first place. You kind of get to the end of the day and then you look back, you realize, oh my God, I didn't know I was stressing about this thing or that thing. You don't catch it until it's too late. And maybe there are some of you who are just lost in this state and you don't even know a way out. You know you're in trouble, you know you're feeling anxious, but you don't even know the first step to escape this thing. So no matter where you are on your journey, I want to break down exactly how managing your anxiety looks like. First of all, you need to question. You need to inquire. You need to inspect. This is the absolute fundamental skill of being an anxiety manager, and it is also a core skill of developing self-awareness. You need to question. So you need to put on your questioning hat whenever you're experiencing something that's causing you negativity, whether it's a thought, an emotion, or decision you've made that leads to a negative consequence. Question it. Why am I having this thought about what's going to happen in the future? Why am I afraid about what's going to happen in the future when it hasn't happened yet? So question it. Why? Where is this coming from? What is this trying to tell me? What's this thought trying to tell me? What's my emotions trying to tell me? It is important that you write this down while you're questioning any thoughts or feelings that you're having, because you can get to see it outside. You get to see it on paper. You're now taking it outside of you and you're assessing it visually. So now you're using your vision as well as your mind to try and process what's happening. What thoughts am I having? What are all the thoughts that I'm having that is contributing to my anxiety or to my negative mood? Write it all down. Write a list completely. So now you have the starting point for creating a map of your anxiety and how it plays out in your life. The next thing to do against each of those thoughts is to write down how that thought makes you feel. Now, depending on where you are in your self-awareness journey, this might be quite challenging. You may not entirely know the impact it has because you may not be fully conscious of how you feel emotionally or what impact it has on your body. So what I'd say is, if you are struggling with this exercise, take a minute to just sit with your body, close your eyes and assess, where is there any tension? Where is there any discomfort? Are my jaws being clenched and my shoulders tight? My shoulders up, I need to relax it. So it helps to get into a relaxed posture. Do some progressive muscle relaxation. Whatever it takes to help relax your body, because it's when you relax your body, you realize where the tension is. So whether there's a thought and you have that thought and it makes your stomach feel queasy, whatever it is, you know the impact that that thought has on your body. And you can kind of locate in your body where that anxiety is being stored. That's a very good starting point, because even if you can't label the emotion, at least you know what the physical sensation is. Kind of twisted stomach, my jaws get tight, my shoulders are up. you notice the tension in your body. Once you notice the tension in your body, you can then apply the intellectual side of it by labeling what that emotion might be. And there are tools that you can use, like an emotions wheel, and I want to include a link in the description so you can see that for yourself. So you write down a list of your thoughts, and against each thought, what impact it has on you emotionally. So it might be that you're quite familiar with the impact it has, and you can label the emotion. Great. Write it down next to it. Now, next to that, you have your thoughts and your feeling. Now you're going to write down what actions you normally take when you're in that state. So if you're feeling anxious about the future, you have a thought that I'm worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, and you end up feeling quite fearful, your heart starts racing, you feel some tension in your chest, and that leads you to want to do some work to try and anticipate tomorrow, what tomorrow might bring. So let's use an example where your boss has scheduled a meeting with you tomorrow, and your boss never schedules a meeting with you. So now you're thinking, what have I done wrong? What's he going to say? Am I going to get fired? What's going to happen? You're now starting to feel quite fearful that something's going to go wrong. And in order to anticipate that feeling and help you feel better, you're now writing down a list of all the mistakes you've made and all the ways that you can help rectify those mistakes. So you can go into that meeting being prepared, all right? So this helps you feel a bit better. But actually in the long term, it ends up with negative consequences because you focus solely on what you're doing wrong rather than what it is you're actually good at in the job, how you can sell yourself. And not only that, you've assumed your boss is meeting you because you've done something wrong, when in fact, you don't know why your boss has scheduled a meeting. There might be something else going on entirely. Maybe your boss is going to move to another team. Maybe your boss wants you to take over. You don't know. Yet you've allowed the thoughts and feelings to dictate how you act in a very specific way. This way is very limiting, all right? So that's an example of how your thoughts impact your feelings, which impact your behaviors. This is what I call a pattern. Thoughts, feelings, behaviors. This is a pattern. Now, these patterns are crucial because if you regularly experience these patterns, they can become part of your default state, automatic, habitual, whatever word you want to use. We very easily can resort to these patterns that we're familiar with because we are familiar with them, because they are habitual, because we're used to them, because they take the least effort to rely on and to do. So you have to look at, what patterns do I have? How many patterns do I have? And how many of those patterns impact me negatively? Now flip to the other side. What patterns do I have that impact me positively? And you might find yourself in a position where you have a lot more negative patterns than you do positive. Or maybe you have an equal balance, but you end up feeling a lot more of the negative patterns because they end up being kind of triggered and activated in your daily life. So now you need to look at, if this is what I typically experience, how can I manage this? So now we want to get into pattern interruption. We want to look at how you can interrupt those patterns, especially those negative patterns. This is where the management of the anxiety comes in. Because in order to interrupt your negative patterns, you can no longer rely on your anxious self to do that. Because your anxious self is at the mercy of these patterns. You now need to invite the person I'm speaking to now, which is the conscious you. The you that is self-aware. The you that is now becoming aware of these patterns, and over time, will catch those patterns as they're happening so you can interrupt it. You will not catch the patterns as they're happening in real time yet, especially if you're at the start of this journey. Just like building a muscle, it takes time for you to be able to interrupt the pattern while it's happening. You'll probably have many times where you have a pattern, a negative experience, and it's only after the pattern's finished you realize, oh, I've done it again. I just realized I was anxious and I didn't stop it in time. That's fine. This is normal part of the process. It's like lifting weights in a gym. You can't skip to 100 kilograms. You need to start with 10 kilograms or maybe even go down to 5, then work your way up gradually. This is the same thing. This process of inquiry and questioning and journaling and writing it down is just like building a muscle. With consistency, that's the key word, you will be able to get to a point where you identify the pattern as it's happening and you can utilize your conscious self to interrupt the pattern by interjecting positive patterns or techniques that help to interrupt that negative pattern and experience that's causing the anxiety, and instead divert your attention to something that's going to help you to feel in a better state, to engage in a better pattern that will lead to more positive consequences in the longer term for you. So I hope this video encourages you to foster self-awareness and consciousness, to see it's not just a word that counselors use, but in fact it's a crucial way for you to finally become a manager in your life. Whether it's anxiety and negative experiences, whatever it is, this is about you taking action, no longer being defined by what's happened to you in the past and no longer being worried about what might happen in the future, but instead to trust in yourself that you have the ability to understand what negative impact your thoughts and feelings can have on you and how you can, with time, interrupt those patterns and instead replace them with positive patterns that will help for you to live your best life. Please comment below what your experiences are in undertaking this exercise of developing self-awareness, of questioning the thoughts you have and feelings you have, particularly those that lead to anxiety. I would love to hear about it. And if you're keen for me to touch upon any other area to explore in a future video, then please comment below again. And please like and subscribe. There's going to be more content coming out very soon.